You won't believe what she got away with, and what happened after. In the neon-drenched chaos of 1980s Los Angeles, one name was hotter than anyone else in the adult film world: Traci Lords. She was everywhere: magazine covers, film sets, video store shelves. By the time she turned 18, she was already a legend. But what most people didn't know: she had been underage for almost all of it. And when that bomb dropped, it didn't just spark controversy, it triggered one of the biggest scandals the adult film industry had ever seen. But before we get there, let's go back to where it all began. She was born Nora Louise Kuzma, May 7, 1968, in the blue-collar steel town of Steubenville, Ohio. A tough place where dreams were smaller and futures often felt locked in. Her family life was anything but stable. Her father? A steel worker with a drinking problem and a violent streak. Her mother eventually walked away from the marriage, left raising Nora and her 3 sisters on her own. When Nora was 12, the family packed up and moved west to Redondo Beach, California. You'd think the palm trees and ocean breeze would offer some kind of reset, but nope. Life stayed hard. Her mother's new boyfriend, Roger Hayes, brought a different kind of trauma into Nora's world. He was abusive, and his presence in the household cast a shadow over her teenage years. Then came an even darker experience. At just 15, Nora was taken advantage of by a boyfriend she trusted. Years later, she'd call it the most traumatizing thing that had ever happened to her. Her quote sums it up perfectly: "My damage drove me into the industry. I had all of this stuff. I was messed up and I was angry." That anger? It didn't consume her, it motivated her. She wasn't looking for pity. She wanted power, money, reinvention. So she made a decision that would change everything. She got herself a fake ID. Through a woman she babysat for, Nora got her hands on a forged birth certificate and an entirely new identity. On paper, she became Christy Elizabeth Nussman, 20 years old. In reality, she was still 15. A high school dropout living a double life and just getting started. In early 1984, she walked into World Modeling Talent Agency, the infamous pipeline into the LA adult film scene. With Roger Hayes posing as her stepdad and all the right forged documents, she passed every check. No one batted an eye. No one asked questions. And why would they? The industry was booming, and here was this bright-eyed, confident 20-year-old ready to work. She chose her stage name carefully: Traci Lords. Traci because it reminded her of the confident, popular girl she never got to be in school. Lords came from Jack Lord, the tough, cool star of Hawaii Five-0. The name had presence. It sounded like someone you should know. Someone who meant business. Her first on-camera role came in What Gets Me Hot in 1984. It was the start of a whirlwind career. And let's be honest, audiences ate it up. She had the look, innocent yet bold. Girl next door with a dangerous edge. Her face was suddenly everywhere, and so were her films. VHS tapes flew off shelves. Magazine spreads. Interviews. She was the biggest name in adult film by the time she was 16. And remember, no one knew she was underage. Between 1984 and 1986, she was in more than 75 films. That's more than some actors do in an entire career. She was reportedly earning $1,000 a day. Back then, that was superstar money in that world. But she wasn't just making money, she was plotting something bigger. Just before her 17th birthday, she launched her own production company, Traci Lords Company, TLC, with her boyfriend and manager, Stuart Dell, also known as Stephen Cartier. They partnered with a distributor called Vantage International. Now she wasn't just starring in films, she was producing them, owning the content, controlling the narrative. That's serious power for a teenager hiding the biggest secret in the business. The first TLC project, Traci Takes Tokyo, was shot in Japan around Christmas 1985 and released in March 1986. It was flashy, weird, and had this East meets West vibe that somehow worked. Audiences loved it. The second film? A straight-up parody of an Eddie Murphy hit. Subtlety? Not the goal. These films were about attitude, image, and selling fantasy. And they were working. A third film, Screamer, was shot but never released. Why? Because the whole operation was about to crash. In May 1986, just days after Traci turned 18, federal authorities got a tip. Someone knew. And just like that, the walls closed in. On July 10, 1986, police raided her home, talent agencies, and multiple production companies. Overnight, video stores across the U.S. yanked every Traci Lords film off their shelves. Anything she shot before turning 18? Now classified as child pornography, federal crime, plain and simple. That meant distributors, retailers, even fans who owned tapes were suddenly at risk of prosecution. Of all the films she appeared in, only Traci I Love You, shot in France just 2 days after her 18th birthday, was legal to sell. Every other project was pulled from circulation. The fallout? Huge. Studios lost millions. Lawsuits piled up. The government began cracking down hard on age verification in the adult industry. For the first time, the industry had to face the fact that their so-called safeguards weren't just flawed, they were practically non-existent. Directors and producers scrambled to defend themselves, saying they had no clue about her real age. And to be fair, the documentation was convincing. But ignorance doesn't always hold up in court. Some got away with warnings. Others faced serious legal battles. To salvage some projects, filmmakers tried to edit around her, cutting her scenes or reshooting them entirely. In some cases, new actresses were brought in to refilm key roles. One example? Talk to Me Part 3, where Lisa DeLeo replaced Traci in reshot segments. But the damage was done. And Traci? She wasn't charged. She was seen as a victim, a teenager who slipped through the cracks of an industry too eager to cash in and too lazy to look deeper. But that version of the story wasn't accepted by everyone. Plenty of people in the business felt betrayed. They said she wasn't naive, that she knew what she was doing, that she manipulated everyone for fame and money, then walked away clean. Whatever the truth was, Traci disappeared from the spotlight, for a while. Then she came back. Her reintroduction to the public was strategic. Director Jim Wynorski was remaking a 1950s sci-fi flick, Not of This Earth, and knew casting her would stir buzz. It worked. But her real shot at mainstream credibility came in 1990 when cult director John Waters cast her in Cry Baby alongside Johnny Depp. She played Wanda Woodward, a rebellious teen with a wild streak and attitude to burn. Audiences loved it. Critics saw potential. From there, Traci Lords rebuilt her entire image. She booked roles in indie films, action flicks, TV shows. Comedy, drama, horror, she did it all. Bit by bit, she carved out a legit acting career. And not just as a gimmick. She proved she had real talent. In the decades that followed, she even released music, wrote a memoir, and continued acting. She's still working today. But no matter how far she's come, her story remains one of the most shocking in entertainment history. A teenage girl with a troubled past reinvented herself, manipulated an entire industry, made millions, and then blew it all up before anyone realized what had happened. The scandal forced a reckoning. Suddenly, age verification became a serious issue. Laws were tightened. Standards were raised. The entire adult industry had to adapt or die trying. And Traci Lords? She walked through the fire and came out famous. She was the girl who forced America to look in the mirror, who showed us what happens when fantasy ignores reality. Because behind every glossy magazine shoot, every grainy VHS tape, every late-night rental, sometimes there's a lie hiding in plain sight. If this blew your mind or made you rethink what you thought you knew about the 80s scene, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear this wild true story. Because trust me, there's way more where this came from.